I want everybody from this moment on to recognize me as the scholar of boxing.
That's it, Tim. The rope when he got hit with the beautiful shot back at Toney. That's the right. Leans back and throws with a right hook. People don't know shit about boxing at all. Did you get what you was looking for?
For 7 decades, Miller has studied the sweet science, and now he imparts his encyclopedic knowledge of the sport to James. Professor Miller tutors his young student with the help of vintage fight films, particularly those of an old friend from Cincinnati, former heavyweight champion Ezzard Charles.
We'd always watch the man's combinations, then we'd watch his defense. How he could make a man slip and slide, roll and counter, and still have good position, good balance, and knew where he was at all times out there. And these are the things that, we should talk about, says, you're gonna do all of this here. And we should always say that you're gonna be better than these guys. You're gonna take what they had and improve on it.
The very first punch of this fight is a left hook because James Toney tries to catch him reaching. Part of being a great fighter is good decision making. James Toney took from the great ones and built up off of it. Right here, he jabs to his opponent's guard, parries his jab, and then feints, and then goes down to the body and double jabs. His opponent immediately answers with a jab of his own. James Toney parries it and jabs him to his right hand to keep it preoccupied, and then stabs him to the body. Very important to notice subtle things like that. Right here, James Toney just stabs him to the body, but notice how calm he is backing up. See, right here, crossing his feet, getting set, backing up, still parrying the guy's jabs like it's another day at the office. Notice here, James Toney feints to the body, right? And everybody always say, shoulder roll, how you beat his weak side ankle. He tries to go to James Toney's right, and James Toney just takes a step back, another step back, and resets, and he's right in front of him again. All those stabs to the body he got from Jersey Joe Walcott. You notice here, Jersey Joe stabbed him to the body. James Toney stabbed him to the body. He implemented what those guys had, but like his trainer said, he built up on it. All that aggressive body work makes him overreact here. James Toney just goes a high guard, and look how he reacts. He thinks it's gonna be a jab to the body, but he just gives him that look, and then he changes back to a bladed shoulder, and then just giving him different looks. A lot of people talk about the shoulder roll. The shoulder roll is based on what you're seeing and how you react in the punches. And James Toney was second to none. Look here. He dips down, draws the jab out, pulls just out of range. Then goes, lays on the right side, slips up under that jab, and then jabs to the body. A lot of being a great fighter is decision making, like I said. In that moment, he decided to jab to the body instead of going to the head. Notice here with Jersey Joe, right? Jersey Joe comes in and he feints with this jab hand, right? Then he puts his hand down again and feints with it and gets his opponent to react. Then he takes a step back, disengages, and walks to the side. Then he feints him again just to get his reaction with his jab. And then this time he feints with the right hand. So he feinted jab, right hand, and then he feints with his foot. Then he disengages, takes a cakewalk to the side. Look at the space in between. Even though he crosses his feet, he still is aware of the range. And James Toney here feints down to the body, gets him to react, then disengage and takes a cakewalk to the side. Notice here, Toney waits for the very last second to slip the jab so he can get him to fully commit so he could double jab him to the body. Watch James Toney gets him to overcommit again, waits to the very last second, slips that head out, and look how his opponent reacts because he thinks the jabs to the body are coming. He gets him to overreact to it. Now look, right here, he slips to the left, feints like he's gonna do something. The guy reacts again, and then he jabs to his guard to get his guard preoccupied and then stab him to the body. Like I said, James Toney was poetry in motion. His opponent makes an adjustment. He throws a jab out there first to get James Toney to move prematurely, right? Now that it's already out there extended, he just tries to hit James Toney in the head with it, but James Toney still slips the shot. Then pivots and makes the left hook miss. People who have educated eyes know what James Toney really is. Right here, look, James Toney feints, gets him to react, and then comes up and gives him a different look with the high guard, then drops his hands and takes a step back to disengage, because he's always at the proper distance, just like Jersey Joe Walcott. Then he puts the high guard on and gives him a look, draws his jab out, and then takes a step back and make the jab fall short. His opponent is off balance, and James Toney is already ready to make another punch miss or to attack his guy. He's already balanced. Right here, he jabs and tries to give James Toney angles, right? All James Toney does is slip the punch, take a step back, reset it, force him back the other direction. James Toney is set before he sets, so what does he do? He throws a jab, but it doesn't make contact. It's just to get him defensive, right? And then he downloads the data. Now he's gonna jab to his lead hand to draw a jab from his opponent, right? And then he gets the jab, he pulls out of range, gets his guy to commit, and he's off balance, and James Toney sees it. Now the right hand is here, but James Toney elects to shoot the jab to the guard and then stab him to the body, sticking to the game plan. Great decision-making skills. Watch here, James Toney parries the jab and then leans back, right? And then he looks him to the body like he's gonna go down there again, right? And the guy tries a double jab and James Toney just up jabs and catches him and knocks him off balance and then slips the right hand. Very, very great defense and good eyes and good concentration and the level of focus. And he answers right back by jabbing to his guard to get him defensive and measure him. And now he's gonna rest behind his feints because he's tired. And he feints once and he feints twice. He's burning his opponent's petrol while resting his. Very genius. Right there, he jabs to his right hand to keep it preoccupied. Look at the level of focus that it takes. Then he drops down up under the right hand and stabs him to the body and pushes him off balance. Look at the space that he's created between him and his opponent by doing that. He gets a bigger break and he's able to focus. Now he's gonna make his opponent burn more petrol with hand feints. See, feints right there and then rest. And then his opponent thinks a jab is coming to the body, his petrol is burning. And then James Toney just pulls out of range calmly, bounces on his toes and resets because his opponent is trying to create angles. Watch here, Jersey Joe Walcott feints down like he's gonna do something to the body and then comes up with a left hook to the head. James Toney, studying these films religiously, he does the same thing in the fight. Right there, he feints, disengages, walks to the side to cut him off and prevent him from creating an angle. Then he's gonna dip down like he's gonna do something to the body and then comes up with a left hook to the head. Pure fucking genius. Now watch this. James Toney resets, feint one, feint two, feint again, and then jab to the guard to keep him busy, creating a whole bunch of anxiety in his opponent. Look how his opponent reacting to his punches now. Right here, James Toney jabs and he parries it, but he's overreacting to the half punches that James Toney is throwing. Like to the body, look how he reacts. He's overextending because he's worried about what James Toney's gonna do to him versus what he's gonna do to James Toney. James Toney has him right where he wants him. Look how he's reacting. He's circling, he's giving up ground, and letting James Toney rest and control the fight. And James Toney would not give him a break. He's right back in his face at a distance where he could hit him and he could be hit, and he's creating mental pressure and he's just burning his petrol. Like most fighters do when they're confused and they don't know what to do, they jab. James Toney just pulls out of range. Look how he's just outside the guy's jab. Perfect distance, always in perfect distance of positioning. And if he's not, look, he just creeps to the side and gets right back in position and then feints him to the body, gets him to react, and then jabs him to the guard, and then right back downstairs to the body. Just subtle things that he would do that would just break a guy down mentally and physically, that makes him one of the best defensive fighters, if not the best, that I've ever seen in my entire life. Right here, he tries to time James Toney's jab to the body with a right hand, and James Toney slips up under it and then pushes him off balance with his right hand. Even when he's not in position, he makes the right choices. Right here, he jabs to the chest and his opponent anticipates the shot to the body, so he goes ahead and tries to block the shot to the body. He's used to that look, so what does James Toney do? Jabs him to the head to block his vision, catch him trying to switch angles, and then stab him to the body. He got it from Ezra Charles. Ezra Charles' opponent jabs and he jabs at the same time, blocks his vision, knocks him off balance, and then lands the right hand. James Toney borrowed from the past great fighters. Here again, Ezra Charles, jab, right hand, blocks his vision. What does James Toney do? High guard, pull back from the jab, duck up under the jab, blocks his vision, and then comes with the right hand over the top. Like I said, James Toney was second to none if you have an educated eye. But a lot of people in the sport don't have an educated eye, don't know what they're watching. He dips down right there, gets his guy to react to the feint, then sticks his probing jab out. What does his opponent do? His opponent gets smart, right? So what does he do? He feints James Toney twice. He feints him once, gets him to pull back from the jab, right? Anticipate the jab, then he feints him again to get him to slip to his right. Now he's like, I got you. He's lined up right for the hand, and he pulls back again. 3 moves that was uncommon. Now he slips up under the jab and comes up with the left hook to the body, right hand to the head. Like I said, he makes the moves that are in the 1% of boxers that are really, really gifted. That's why James Toney's so special. Now James Toney's gonna feint him to the body, right? And he knows that when he feints him to the body, he squares up and gets out of position. What does he do? Jab to the shoulders. High level thinking, man. Great decision making. Standing right in front of you the entire fight. Focused for 36 minutes of the fight. He was a beast, man. James Toney's one of the greatest fighters ever. James Toney opponent tries to get smart again, feints him, gets him to make a defensive moves, and James Toney still pulls back from that punch and then slips the other one. Like I said, in the 1%, second to none. I've never seen anybody do this type of stuff in the ring. Watch this. He gives him a high guard, right? Then he drops the high guard, anticipates a punch, drops up under the punch, jabs him to the body, right hook to the body, and then left hook to the head. Changing the rhythm and the beat of the fight through the entire fight. Right here he creeps forward, creating pressure, forcing him to jab, and then he answers with a double jab to the head and then to the chest to back him up. But his opponent cannot take a break. See right there, he answers with the right hand over the top to catch him. But his opponent has constant mental stress and he cannot find safety. You see him moving back and forth, moving side to side, and James Toney is right in his face, walking him down the entire time, forcing him to fight. When his opponent tries to find peace, he throws a jab at James Toney. James Toney pulls just always out of range, perfect, and rolls the shot and answers with the right hand of his own. So always just at the distance, the proper distance that he needs to be, constantly creating pressure, walking this guy down behind a good game plan. Like, I've never seen anything like this. You have to have educated eyes, like I said, to know what you're seeing. James Toney cutting the ring off, taking a step to the side, forcing him to fight, and he comes in and double jabs, and James Toney just flicks a jab up, the up jab, to stop his aggression. He has his timing down for the jab, and he knows he can't beat him, and then he jabs him to the body, right? He tries to come up with a left hook, but he smothers his work, and then he tries to land an uppercut, and then instinctively catches the left hook. It was at this moment where James Toney found something. Right here, he noticed that whenever he laid on his right side and threw the up jab, it negated the offense that his opponent was trying to do. So right here, he pulls out, his opponent tries to jab him to the body, and then he stabs him to the head again and backs him up. So James Toney has noticed that the jab negates anything that he's trying to do whenever he's coming forward, and he computes that. James Toney just takes a step to the side, cutting the ring down, forcing him to fight when he doesn't want to fight, which will create a ton of anxiety and make a person mentally fatigue and wear down. And he's just right in his face. There's no escaping. Right in his face again, making him throw punches. And then right there, he feints him to the body. Then he feints him to the body again. And then feints him to the body again. And then this time he comes up with the up jab through the center. And then pulls his guard down. And then lands a jab to the body. Gets him out of position, gets the space that he needs. And then throws a left hook. Like I said, James Toney was poetry in motion, if you know what you're looking at. Watch here, James Toney draws the jab out, pulls out of range, flicks the jab up because he knows where his head's gonna be. And he knows that every time he does that, it stops his opponent's aggression. See? Stops him dead in his tracks. Now he could jab to the guard and bend down like he's gonna stab him to the body, then comes back up and disengages, forcing his opponent to make unnecessary movement. Always in positioning, just out of range of the jab. Then he pulls back, slips his head to the side, up under the jab, and then jabs him to the body, and then creates a ton of distance between them because he's physically breaking them down. That punch moves him all the way back so James Toney could get a break and reset. And what does James Toney do? Gets right back in the punching range and then throws a jab to the chest and then a jab to the body just when he was trying to take a break and thought he was safe. So he can't take a break. James Toney's forcing him to fight when he doesn't want to fight. Notice this sequence right here, right? James Toney's taking a step, and finally his opponent's getting desperate and coming forward and taking risks. And James Toney feints right there and gets him to react. And then he pulls in, he catches James Toney with that jab and knocks him off balance. James Toney's aware, so what does he do? He takes a step back with his left foot first, then his right foot. Now because he's walked like Archie Moore, he's in position again to just out of range of the jab, and he stabs him to the body. Now that he stabbed him to the body and created that distance between them, he walks him down, jabs him to the guard to keep him busy, keep him picking shots. And then right there, he feints, and look how he reacts to that. He goes and parries a punch that's not even there, and then James shoots to his right hand that's already extended. And then off of that, he comes in and tries to land a body shot, but the guy parries it and buries it low. And the referee tells James Toney it was low, and he tells him, shut up. James Toney does a high guard right here that gets to react to it, and then he transitions into a more bladed stance and parries the jab with his right hand, all while doing so. And then the guy double jabs, James Toney rolls that shot and then does the up jab to stop his offense again. And then James Toney tries to come over the top with the right hand, but it grazes him and misses, barely by an inch. Then he tries to keep the jab extended and pin it on James Toney back, but James Toney rolls his body to one side and then rolls it to the other. He doesn't allow himself to be pinned and trapped. It's another thing that he does good. And then right here, James Toney jabs to his guard, lands a short right hand in between that. Like I said, he's mentally breaking him down, and then lands a left hook after that. So he's the shots that were missing earlier are now landing right here. He parries the jab and then stabs him to the body. And then he goes to throw the right hand, and James Toney rolls his body. And then the right hand's not there, so he ducks up under the jab and then jabs him to the body and then stabs him to the head and pushes him back. Like I said, he's deteriorating. The punches are getting more of effect and the feints are getting more of effect. Everything's more effective and exaggerated now because he's breaking them down. And then James Toney just looks him down, feints him twice to the body, draws the jab, and then up jabs him. And then he does it again, up jabs him, and then lands a counter right hand and knocks him out. But it's something very, very interesting in this sequence that makes James Toney a real special fighter. When Jersey Joe Walcott was fighting Joe Louis, he takes a step back after a feint, right? Takes a step back, draws Joe Louis in, and then counters his jab with the up jab, and then comes over the top with the right hand, just like James Toney did. But there was also something in that sequence that made him even more of a special fighter. The fact that he did this. When he up jabbed his opponent, right? He up jabbed his opponent, stopped his opponent's offense, knocked his head back, right? But then his opponent measures him with the jab hand, pushes his shoulder back, and then James Toney cuffs the side of his head so there's no path for the right hand, then rolls it and lands a right hand of his own. That's why he's special. There's some stuff that you just can't teach in the sport of boxing, and that's what James Toney possesses. He possesses the it factor. He probably, other than Muhammad Ali, might be the greatest defensive fighter of all time with the punch radar. Look, right here is another view. He measures James Toney with the lead right hand. James Toney places his jab hand over there to block the path of the right hand, and then rolls it at the last second, and then comes back with the right hand of his own. Like, this almost isn't fair. This almost isn't fair how good James Toney was. He can make moves that was in like the 1%. It might be the 0.001%. You have to be in boxing to understand what I'm trying to tell you. James Toney's sitting right in front of you at a distance where you could be hit, but also hit your opponent. That alone takes a ton of focus. James Toney would do this for an entire fight, which means he was focused for 36 minutes, and he was creating this type of pressure on his opponents for 36 minutes, making moves that was uncommon. During this whole fight, he probably did the Michigan roll maybe 3 or 4 times. He didn't do it a lot. He was giving them different defensive looks and different positionings, and his decisions combined with the moves that he was making that was in a 0.001% makes him great. Like I said, look, he blocks the right hand right here, rolls at the end of the shot, and lands a right hand of his own. He did all of this on the fly. That's what makes him the best defensive fighter, in my personal opinion, of all time. His instincts, the way he's able to read punch lines. I mean, just the pressure that he creates, the fact that he keeps focused for 36 minutes, the fact that he throws short shots. He can make it happen on the front end and the back end. A lot of people say, you know, shoulder roll, shoulder roll, shoulder roll. James Toney would probably call it a Michigan roll, right? But even with the Michigan roll, it's just based off of what you're seeing and what you're anticipating. And James Toney was second to none to that. Even when Floyd used it, you go back and you look at Floyd Mayweather's fights, Floyd Mayweather could not get away from a jab. James Toney made jabs look like breakfast food to him. He was always in positioning. But anyway, it's the Boxer Scholar, and I'm out.